Good morning, Comrade. You listen to WHIV LP New Orleans 102.3. This is your weekly Good Morning Comrade, Jeff and Robert on the show. Robert, did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I mean, I made my little foods. I didn't go anywhere, which was great. Like, I made my little foods and then ate my little foods, and they were wonderful. But the best thing I can say about this Thanksgiving is not having to go anywhere or fly or drive. Or I just was like, I literally don't have the bandwidth. I barely have the bandwidth. I mean, I'm being only halfway facetious. I barely have the bandwidth to have this conversation right now. I'm completely flustered and being pulled in 5 different directions, but it's not all bad
in your life, right?
Yeah, it's not all bad. I mean, things are happening, but I don't mean to be a downer, but yeah, it is what it is. It's weird to even think about like Thanksgiving, like, oh, did you have a good Thanksgiving?
What are you thankful for, Robert?
I'm thankful for the death of neoliberalism. I don't know what's going to come from it, but obviously as we read the news today, the center cannot hold, as you always say. That should be, you want to do merch, you want to do a t-shirt, it should be a t-shirt with your face on it that just says the center cannot hold.
There you go. And honestly, like, there has been so much crazy stuff going on. Like, there was an attempted coup in South Korea yesterday, and then how
are you gonna do a coup and then forget like the army? Like,
bro,
that's the whole point.
The army, and then like that's the only time where you can actually like vote out fascism is like when you just have one of these halfway, like half-baked coups where the president of South Korea decides like, I'm just gonna go off all half-cocked, and the parliament's like, no, you're not. No, you get out of here, bro.
Right. Well, I don't want to sound like the ultimate tanky, like, because I'm not out in the streets. I'm not making fun of people, but I was I was listening to like normie news or whatever on the way into work, and they're all like, oh yeah, there's a coup and an attempted coup, but the thing was, I guess he forgot you needed to have a coup. You needed the president of South Korea needed to have the control of the army. You're going to do a coup. And then it said, the news presenter said, and then the Korean people took to the streets to protest. And I'm like,
oh yeah, the Korean labor unions were like literally like, we're doing a general strike. They think
okay, that's different. So yeah. So a general strike is completely different than what I was thinking, because I was trying to frame this as not being facetious.
You like if they had a women's march or something.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what? I'm like, protest? Like, what are you talking about? What are you protesting, dog? Like, protest time's over with. Mm-hmm. Like this cat says, oh, I'm doing a takeover of the government. It's like you can't really protest against that, my dude. But like a general strike, okay, now we're talking.
Like I'm imagining like somebody in a pink, hat, brother, like protesting the Beale Hall Putsch or something like that.
That's America in a nutshell. and then they would get mad at you for doing that. They'd be like, "How dare!" Like, how dare you kneel when
don't you realize that there was an election? Don't you want to accept the will of the people? The fact that like 1.5% or something like that more of the people that voted for Donald Trump, and it's also it's not a majority. Like, it's so silly.
I'm saying, yeah, that's exactly what it would be like. Their political if it was America, the political opposition to the president would be, oh well, oopsie doopsie, things happen, we'll get them next time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it is what it is. Yeah.
In the meantime, we have to like bend the knee to the guy that we were calling a fascist yesterday.
Exactly.
Like, that's my favorite.
Exactly. So I take back.
Like, you're talking about like I think it was something that I sent to you a couple of weeks ago where I think it was I want to say it was some kind of like either a labor leader or no, it was Cenk Uygur.
Oh,
He comes
not
out
a
and he
labor
says,
leader,
"You know
not
what?
a labor leader.
No,
The
a
opposite of
labor
labor
foe."
leader.
He comes out and he's like, "You know what? Our foe isn't actually like the Trump or whatever. It's the
Yeah.
establishment." And like that's just like, okay, Weimar. Like literally, you're just doing Weimar stuff right now.
You mean to tell me the liberal whose studio is sponsored by Polymarket, live from the TYT Polymarket studio? You're telling me a conservative turned neoliberal is saying that fascism's okay? Like,
Let me
are you
read the tweet because
serious?
this rules.
I could never imagine liberals turning into fascists like that. Live from the Polymarket studio at that.
I know this is like drama, like and like we don't usually do that kind of stuff,
But
but
it's
like I'm
real
not
though. These people are like, it is
like
drama, but these
you know,
people are characters that we know.
the
You know
Young
what I mean? I
Turks.
don't mean like this is America. This is a nice like Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur are a cross section of American liberals, and they
Yeah.
are the exact type of liberal who, like you said, you're referencing Weimar Germany, the exact type of liberal who handed the keys over to Nazi Party and Adolf Hitler. The exact type.
So in 2016, they were screaming fascism, fascism, fascism about Trump. That was a little bit less the case this time. But like, here's what Cenk Uygur posted on Twitter on the 29th, like a couple days ago. I've been trying to figure out why I'm more optimistic now than I was before the election, even though I was so against the guy who won. He's talking about Trump. I know now MAGA is not my mortal enemy, and neither is the extreme left. My mortal enemy is the establishment, and they have been defeated. It's not just the establishment candidate loss. It's that their media is mortally wounded. Of course, he would say the mainstream media is mortally wounded because he runs a quote unquote independent outlet. The source of their strength was not insipid politicians like Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden. Mitch McConnell's like handpicked successor is going to be the leader in the Senate. By the way, like it's not like it's not like he's been like cast to the winds and his legacy is all but gone. We can talk about Joe Biden in a second too. But the source of their strength was their propaganda machine, the mainstream media. Now online media is strong enough that their oppressive monopoly on that American mind has been broken. Now we're in the jungle. They hate that. I love it. This uncontrolled marketplace of ideas is where I'm home. I'd rather be in the populous woods than the establishment prison.
Well,
Incredible.
I know, again, like I'm beating this joke into the ground, but it's 100% serious. Like I'm not taking any advice or any words of political wisdom from a loser who's broadcasting live from the Polymarket studio. I'm not doing that, bro. Like, get out of here with that.
And
No,
again,
the guy's a bum. The guy's a bum, and I'm like, you don't even have to be hyperbolic about the Young Turks and Cenk Uygur to know that. Yeah, like I know I just called him a bum, and that's very that's very personal. But you can look at it like this: like if you want to be the actual, hardest objective viewpoint, is that look, the Young Turks and the TYT network, they served a purpose to guiding people down the leftist pipeline.
Yeah.
They're no longer serving that purpose.
Yeah.
Therefore, I have no need of them.
Yeah.
They're gone. Like, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We're still stealing the bye-bye from them. Though.
Yeah, bye-bye.
They stole it from McLaughlin Group. We're stealing it from
It's the same argument, and we're getting deep into the, I feel bad for WHIV listeners and not our listeners online, because WHIV listeners are like, you need these poor people need Cliff's notes to like know what we're talking about. But the thing is, it's like I put Cenk Uygur now in the same category I once put Vosh, and I once put like a Destiny. I'm like, yeah, I don't like them, but they are important as far as like pipelines to create actual leftists. But now they don't serve the, much like another place, unsinkable aircraft carrier in the Middle East. Now it no longer serves that purpose. So therefore, it must be jettisoned. Like we have no use for it.
It's
no use for TYT,
decaying remnants of empire. Or I do think that the Young Turks does serve a purpose, but not to the left at this point. It
Oh,
serves a
at
purpose
this point for
toward
sure.
essentially like, and I'm not the kind of person that's like they're sheepdogging to bring people into the, to turn people right or whatever. But like what's ending up happening right now is that this ostensibly there's a battle between essentially the like Warrenite like left that's like trying to essentially say that we can't like the only path forward for us to have any kind of like for a quote unquote left or for any kind of like working class movement to have any kind of legitimacy is to cut off the BLMs, to cut off the trans folks, to cut off like all of the things that they deem weird,
Yeah.
that these like normies like they deem weird when like I don't know, man. There are definitely a lot of working class people that have come from all of those identities, and throwing them under the bus actually serves only the purposes of the fascists. You're literally giving them
Yeah.
everything and getting nothing.
I just had this fight at work with somebody who's a Trump guy, and we're talking about immigration, and our position on that, and blah blah blah. And at the end of it, I said, why are you punching down at the poorest people on earth, but you never want to punch up at the people who are actually like screwing your life, like
And this is happening on mainstream media too, by the way. Like it's not just on like these little corners of the internet that you and I, like some like online creep feature, like creatures are familiar with. Like this is happening on MSNBC as well. Like Joyanne Reid talking about how Kamala Harris ran a perfect campaign or whatever.
Crazy.
It's like get out of here, get out of here.
Anyway.
No,
yeah, and it's really bad. I think a more interesting question is what do you do? Because it's over for neoliberalism. Like it's still going to survive. It's going to limp on. But as far as like an actual like ideology, it's dead. You can see it right now,
as a banner for like people to rally behind as an electoral project.
Yeah.
It's done. It's cooked. It only works as an alternative to something that's like considered to be far worse. But at this point, like we've had both Pepsi and we've had Coke, and we've decided that we want Pepsi.
So what I think is the more interesting question, as the death throes of neoliberalism, is what do you do when? Okay, what do you do when? And I guess I'll set this up like this. So, did you see? Not only it really does feel like the French Revolution is going to kick off at any second. Between Palestine,
we can talk about a French Revolution in a minute. By the way, that's something
between United Healthcare, a CEO being murdered. Between now, the French Parliament has completely collapsed because the liberals from Macron's party tried to pass through a funky Social Security bill, which hurts workers, and both the left and Le Pen's Nazi right both said no, this doesn't work for us. Actually, on top of it not working for us, we're going to join forces and bring on a vote of no confidence against the prime minister, and it just went through, and so now they have to reform a government because now the Liberal Party doesn't have the power to hold on to it through the vote of no confidence. So a more interesting question to me is when like Cenk Uygur's like, well, the right, I've been treated better by the right than of course you have, you idiot. But as leftists, if we're really going to like,
because they know you're stupid enough to like fall for anything that they say,
right? Exactly.
Like, get their messaging out.
All they got to do is stroke you. All they got to do is hit you with a compliment, and you're going to be like in love with it.
Elon Musk replied to me on Twitter. You see,
yeah, exactly.
I've never been replied to on Twitter by like Chuck Schumer.
Exactly. And when your whole like worldview and your whole like theory of change revolves around self-serving and like personal experience. And like I saw a homeless person once, and
the numbers that your tweet gets.
Yeah, like that's insane. But here's the more interesting question, which I feel like is going to have to be tackled by leftists as we move forward, and we believe, hey, the world's not going to end tomorrow, and we are going to have to rebuild and keep it going. Is that so? What happens when in France, when your party, your leftist party is supporting, material beneficial change for the working class, but then so is also the Nazis. The right wing is doing the same thing.
How do you differentiate?
How do you differentiate? What kind of hard line should you have to parlay with these people? And like, how do you even communicate that? Be like, okay, these people are bad, but we're all voting on this thing that is good and going to help you. Mm-hmm. Like how, like that is the conversation that's going to have to be had. And I feel like right now it's not being had. And that's
so in America, I don't think it works the same way, if I'm totally honest, because America's only got 2 lanes. Like in France, they have multiple different parties that can sort of push for multiple different things. In the so you can essentially create an alternative party and have them actually contend because those parties get a portion of their votes to get seated in parliament. In the United States, that is not the case. You literally have 2 like behemoths that just have a chokehold on all the power, and there's no similar. It's like structurally, and this is something that a lot of Americans who are like, we got to create a workers' party. Yeah, sure. If that's going to happen, it has to happen while you're also killing the Democratic Party, and that there cannot be like. Structurally speaking, there cannot be 3 parties because the third one is always going to die. It's always going to kill. It's always going to get choked out because, and it has to happen in like one cycle. It can't happen in multiple cycles. It needs to like fully replace or just like you need to just do a full takeover of one of them.
So that makes a lot of sense to me. What you're saying, and that brings me to another thing I've been thinking about, and I really did want to ask you about like. I'm glad we're doing it on air. Is that so? The whole thing with I almost said dirty. The whole thing with Bernie kind of coming out and saying like, "Oh, we're gonna do this, and this," and he's kind of like teasing a dirty break, which we all know if you followed this man's career, we're not. He's not going to be the one to lead a dirty break. But so first of all, let's talk about because you're the electoral politics guy and the labor guy. Let's talk about in my head what a dirty break actually is. A dirty break to me is where, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong, is to where it's the primary and Robert Johnson's going to run in the primary. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I build a working class coalition in the primary, and this is any election, not necessarily a federal election, state, whatever. I build a working class coalition in the primary, and then after we lose to the centrist Democrat, because I assume I'd be running in the Democratic Party, and I say, okay, here's how this is going to go. You either adopt Mr. Man who just won the primary against me. You're going to adopt my important policy planks, or I'm going to run as an independent. And I don't care if I split the vote because effectively voting for you is like having a Joe Manchin anyway. We're going to have a Republican anyway in by a name only. So I don't care if you lose or not. Is that what a dirty break actually is? Or am I completely wrong on that?
We would have to have somebody on here to sort of like talk about the specifics of that. So for me, and this is sort of why I've never been like described myself as a dirty breaker or whatever. It's never been like sufficiently. It's always been sort of a vague thing. It's always been something that's sort of defined as we create a certain amount of capacity within the Democratic Party to where we can essentially break off and do our own thing once we build the sufficient capacity to do so. And when you like, that sounds great, I guess. But like you probably gave more detail in what that might look like than anybody that I've ever heard describe it to me prior to now. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I don't think even what I just described is feasible because if nobody is going to realistically,
I don't know if I would support that, honestly. I don't know if I would support that.
But if somebody was going to get, let's say there was an anarchy, let's say there was a funder for this and they were going to give me, Robert Johnson, money to do this, and I would do it in a heartbeat and run that race and run it as a protest campaign. But the average
give you that money.
Yeah, exactly. But the average person who has the time and the energy to get into this isn't going to run a protest campaign. So that's not going to work. And then two, like, I mean, I would say that the Democratic Party would do like, how bad they came at like India Walton, they would do the same thing. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I would tell them that, like, I'm not even trying to win. I'm trying to destroy you. And so if you have to spend all like a huge amount of your war chest to come after me, I'm totally for that. I don't care. And at some point, again, I think about like a Israel Palestine. I convert everything to war. I don't know. That's my sick brain. At some point, if we get enough people to do this, you want to be in power. I know you'll absorb losses. You'll send out the people that you don't care about to get beat, the people who are maybe even progressive to get beat, but you can control them. And but at some point, we'll start getting to your backbench and we'll start destroying their campaigns, and none of y'all will be in power. And we'll bring the whole thing down. And I know that sounds crazy. That sounds like, oh man, you want to burn the house down. Like, how's that going to solve anything? But I'm like, we already have Joe Manchin's and Kristen Sinema's. Like, they're already in there. They're already Republicans, in everything but name. So what is the point of not going after people like this? But again, I don't think no one's going to want to sacrifice their time and energy to do something like that. And the other option I see is what we've been doing is people are like, oh, we're going to run grassroots candidates. And it's like, what, you want me to run and again, this isn't like this is a bad equivalence because they are completely different. But what, you want me to put as a voter, as a person who is, politically active, you want me to put my money and energy, things I'm short of these days in this America, to backing an AOC who will stand on a stage and be like, Kamala Harris is working her hardest. It's not a genocide. Or do you want me to put that same energy and money behind a John Fetterman who will just be absorbed by the system? No, like, I'm not doing that. So it's like, at some point, it's like, you have to just be, I hate it. You have to be a terrorist, and you have to be willing to blow it up. And again, to go back to like, you don't even have to use those words, terrorists. The only thing in the ghost written book that Donald Trump had written, Art of the Deal, he'd always say, never engage. It says, never sit down for any negotiation you're not prepared to walk away from. So if you're not prepared to be a terrorist and you're not prepared to blow it all up at any moment, then you've already lost that leverage. And so that's,
you don't have leverage. You don't have it.
You don't have it at all. And that's where we're at. And I feel that's why I think this is terminal, and I don't have any hope for the American political system at all.
I hate to like split a hair here, but I think it's important. I do think that there's a pretty significant difference in the way to sort of like walk up to this. I agree with most of the things that you said here, but I do think there's a pretty significant difference between Fetterman and AOC.
That's what I was trying to say. I was like, this is a bad comparison, but it's the same. It's in the same ballpark. They might
like AOC thought what she was doing a strategy or whatever. She thought she was playing 3-dimensional chess or whatever.
Yeah.
And like John Fetterman is just a legitimate psycho who just like wants to see.
But functionally, I will say John Fetterman is a bad person, and AOC is functionally, not knowing her, parasocial relationship and all that. I would say AOC is a good person, but materially and functionally, at the end of the day, they are both serving the same role. They are both serving the same capacity.
I think that there's actual potential when it comes to somebody like AOC, just because there is like I get the idea of playing the game to fend off the bad thing. I think that it's probably like not what I would do if I was in that position. But like if like in like outside of the constraints of the specifics of that election, I wouldn't see her doing that. Now,
I follow go ahead.
Bad stupid votes, and some like she tries to walk some really dumb lines to sort of like prove herself to the establishment that will always hate her. And I always think that's a bad idea. But like as soon as some capacity is built up, then leverage can be applied.
I'll follow that analogy up with another one, and I think you'll be open to this. Being a teacher, is that these, and I'll be more charitable at AOC. I would say, it's almost like being a teacher to where like you're in schools and you got somebody going, what's going on with these kids' grades in this class? Like why? And you go, oh, you mean Johnny? Oh, okay. So I see him for 1 hour 5 days a week. And then
Mhm.
he goes home to a messed up home situation. And then all the other stuff that he gets hit with on the way to my class, my 1 hour, my 5 hours a week that I spend with him.
Mhm.
What do you want me to do?
Mhm.
Because I ain't got that kind of juice. So my thing is, when you throw a good teacher into a bad system, you're still gonna get bad. The system's
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
swallow that up, and you're gonna get bad outcomes. When
No,
you
no,
throw a
no, no,
good
no, no, no.
person in AOC into a bad system, the system's still gonna do what the system's gonna do.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
No, 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 I get that, and, like, I think that there's
That's
more.
why I started with it. I'm like, this isn't a good comparison, but it's the first two things I
No,
could
yeah,
think of.
no, 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 but I do think that there is possibility to again, it can this is not something that can only happen from the inside. There needs to be outside pressure that is not immune from those forces that, like, are acting upon AOC, but, like, there needs to be not just and it can't just be negative, there needs to be supportive, things that
Absolutely.
encourage good things and not just, like, every time AOC does something that is genuinely bad and genuinely stupid or whatever, like, it's time to we're done with AOC, we don't ever wanna see or hear from her ever again. And it's just like,
Agreed.
I don't know, man. Like, there's probably more to it than that. Like, if you just, like, cut your entire face off in spite of your, ears or whatever, that's not gonna get you in any kind of a better
Well,
position.
that's why, like, when we talk about this, that's our own bias showing is that
Yeah.
we roll in the circles that we're like weird tankies are constantly just
Yeah.
like are constantly just coming for her, and it's just like, come on, it's not that serious. But
I mean, it is serious. What
I
she's
mean,
doing
when you
is bad.
but I mean, like when you stand out and you say stuff like, "Oh, so and so's the man, she's really working for a ceasefire," and you know that's not happening.
Mhm.
It's like you're giving them ammunition to run with.
Well, that's the thing. Like, like she tries to walk these lines
Yeah, don't
that,
do that.
like, alienates her from the actual base of support that she has, which is working class people. And, like, honestly, like, there's still a lot of leftists that are, like, kind of like less ideologically specific and ideologically committed to, like, whatever, specific idea of, a communist utopia is going to be. And they're more along the lines of, well, she supports unions, she supports, Medicare for all, she supports, like, all these good things. She calls Palestinians human beings. She doesn't talk about them like they're
Yeah.
trash, or she mentions acknowledge their existence. So, like, there's
Mhm.
definitely a difference between her and, like, others, but, like, materially speaking, policy, and she has better votes on a lot of people. But, like, again, she's making these moves and she's doing these things that alienates herself to these sort of, like, leftist organizations that are genuinely supportive or have been supportive of her in the past. And it seems to be pandering to some of these, she's definitely not pandering to APAC, because APAC will never not stop throwing money against her. But, like, there's this idea that she's pandering to, like, Nancy Pelosi and part of the establishment, which is like she's trying to have working relationships internally, I think, but she's doing it in such a way that it's like, that if you vote for this stupid resolution by the Democrats that's already going to pass, if you vote yes on it, you're not going to get any credit for it from the Democratic establishment, even. So, even
Right.
calling you a strategy of building internal pressure or whatever, they're never going to believe you. And the only thing it's going to do is piss off people that, like, ostensibly might support you, or people who are skeptical of you. You're going to confirm their biases. So, like,
Exactly.
strategically speaking, if she's playing three-dimensional chess, she's getting her butt kicked. She just lost her knight. You know what I mean?
No, 100%. And she's not. Yeah, and I understand the pull because you think like you're going to be protected by these people, but you're not. Like at the end of the day,
She's blundering
you're going to
into.
be the first one on the chopping block that
Mhm,
they're gonna run against.
mhm,
They're gonna or let APAC money run against you, or they're going to literally just run against you. They'll run a corporate shill against you.
mhm.
Um,
Which,
that's
I
just
mean,
what it
again,
is.
and this is part of the reason why they don't send the dogs after AOC quite so hard as they would send the dogs after, like, Ilhan Omar or
Yeah.
Bowman or Cori Bush or Rashida Tlaib, who they literally impeached, like, or they literally no, they reprimanded her, they censured her, like, no, they censured Ilhan Omar, the week that they passed like one of these voting rights bills and just
Right.
completely like stomped over their huge victory on that like years ago. The reason that they don't go after AOC nearly as hard is because she raises money and she raises money for the party. And
Yeah.
that's something that they don't want to mess with because they know that that they're going to have trouble fundraising going forward
Very
because
much
they're a
so.
the Democrats, specifically the Democratic establishment, is a dying like mammoth in the in the jungle, and it's about to get cannibalized.
No, absolutely. I mean, if she, I could be completely. I mean, my hope is that it's not even. I was going to say find a spine, but my hope is that she is playing 4-dimensional chess,
I hope she plays better chess.
and then can say, you know what, like, look, Nancy Pelosi or whoever's going to, lead the minority party in the Hakeem Jeffries, look him in the eye and go, look, them days of you pushing me around are over. I can survive what, like, I've done the legwork in my district to make it pretty much a permanently
It
safe
would be
seat
stupid
for the
to
rest of
spend
my
money
life.
against her because they would waste that
Right.
money.
And then like I can survive any APAC challenge at this point. Like I've put it, because she literally has put in the shoe leather to hold that district down. So she needs to be like using that now.
Mm-hmm.
She needs to be like, no. It's like there's nothing you can do to me. I'm almost like a Bernie in a way, to where I'm just like inoculated against your foolishness.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's not much else to there for it. You are listening to WHIV LP New Orleans 102.3. This is Good Morning Comrade. GoodMorningComrade.com. Robert, change the subject a little bit.
Please.
Our boy has been pardoned. Can you believe it?
Yeah, I can, and
it's the least surprising thing of all
time. It's the least surprising thing of all time. It's as least surprising.
About Hunter Biden, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know. It's least surprising as a leaked video out there with showing two consenting adults doing consenting adults thing. Again, sorry, WHIV users. This is the listeners. This is for the internet. Like, between a Nazi and a liberal, and like, it's the most surprise, not surprise thing ever. Like, oh yeah, that video's out there, and Hunter Biden got pardoned. Of course, but yeah, like, of course. The only thing is, and I was trying to talk to the Trump guy about it at work, because he was like, you know what? I don't even blame him. That's my son. I would have done the same thing. I don't like Joe Biden. I'm like, bro, here's the problem. I said, here's the problem with that, though, is, yeah, he's taking care of his kids, but not to sound like North Korea, like Juche, but, philosophy, but like, we're all supposed to be his kids. So you telling me that, like, as soon as they really want to do something, as soon as the party and the executive branch want to do something, it gets done. But when it's healthcare or education subsidization, or infrastructure, all of a sudden the parliamentarian, and all of a sudden they're painting the Capitol building that day, and we can't do that, and all of a sudden a million excuses come right out of the woodwork. But when they really want to do something, this is what they do. They help themselves, and they don't help the people who actually put them in office. And it's just so par for the course. Like I said, if you're surprised by this, you're a moron. And there's a lot of liberals that are acting surprised. They're acting incredibly surprised.
They're acting surprised, but then they're also like, you know what?
They're losing their mind.
And I don't even necessarily disagree with this, but like they're saying, like, you know what? The prosecutions against Hunter Biden were unfair. And I'm just sort of like, yeah, sure.
They absolutely were, and I don't care, though. I don't care. I put a post on Facebook and Blue Sky, and because Joe Biden's his excuse for this is that, it's a political prostitution. It's a political prosecution, and they were trying to stress Hunter out so much that he's going to relapse. And I said, Joe, and on my post, I said, Joe, I just pulled through a Wendy's drive-through and made my card, and now my bank account is overdraft, and all I got out of it were cold, stale fries. I don't care if the GOP was trying to make your son relapse. Mm-hmm. This is why you lost, dude. It's like, you expect me to care? I don't care, brother. Big Macs are $10 now or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear this. If he would have been like, well, you know what? Student debt gone. We're nationalizing the farming industry, and that's going to bring prices down. Plus, we're doing Medicare for all. Oh, and by the way, my son's not going to jail. Everybody would have been like, woo!
If he delivers on everything, nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody cares. It's almost expected in America. If you would have been doing right, no one cares if you skim off the top. Like, people are like, oh, pay the cost to be the boss. Especially in America, like our thinking. Nobody cares that you're skimming off the top of the casino. If you're doing what's right by the casino, what's right by the American people, no one would care. It's that you refuse to do what's right. You refuse to take action, except when it personally benefits you. It's what our weirdo uncles at Thanksgiving have always been talking about. And it's like, yeah, on that point, they're right. It's just that they say, yeah, and then that's why you got to vote for Trump, because the billionaire who doesn't pay his bills, he's for the working class. Yeah. It's like, no, you got exactly everything right
of the way there.
Yeah, you made such a good diagnosis, but your prescription sucks.
Yeah, Dr. Uncle, what you doing over here?
But you can't say nothing to him because this thing that gets confused as left-wing politics or the Democratic Party or whatever you want to call it just keeps falling right into, it's not even a trap. They just keep giving the other side ammunition. Yeah. It's crazy.
The same thing it's always done. And like, again, like, I think it's funny that like Fox News is like lost its mind over it or whatever. I don't genuinely care about like,
I don't know if they've lost their mind. I've been watching a little Fox and they're mostly laughing. They're mostly like, oh, of course, they're like, yep, we knew it, blah, 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 blah. But it's like MSNBC liberals. It's like the Jonathan Chaits of the world that I'm seeing on X are just like, oh my, this is too much for me. Like, I can't believe it's like this man is actively doing a genocide. He's actively doing a genocide, and you're just like, this is the thing that's too much. I'm like, come on, brother. I'm like, we're not. Like, y'all have lost the plot. If this isn't even top 100, like, why I hate Joe Biden, like breaking the bank, like not breaking the bank, but like like getting on the top of the list. Like, this doesn't even make the top 100 things. But it is ironic and it is hilarious that the guy who, Joe Biden, what does it say? Racial jungle, crime bill, got to charge him, we got to do public executions if you're smoking crack in America. Yeah. His son is, got a funky gun charge. He got this is going to be crazy. All the black crimes, funky gun charges, smoking crack, selling crack, hanging out with all the hip hop crimes, right? All the rap crimes. And that the irony in that is just not lost on me, that an old racist had to bail his son out for all the stuff that he railed against in his youth, or middle ages, I should say. It's crazy. The world is funny, dude.
It's a funny place.
It's a funny
but like, and again, like, the laughing about the Jonathan Chaits and all these freaks losing their mind, like, that's like one news cycle, and then like the next thing you get is like, oh, Donald Trump's like Secretary of Defense pick is now having his mom defend him on television for being a like horrible sexual abuser or whatever. Like,
right. No, and they're like, and that's why I'm getting a pardon to all the January 6th revolutionaries. And I'm just like, what? Like these two things. That's like again, going back to bad equivalencies. Like, that was me trying to not, making equivalence between AOC and John Fetterman. Like, yeah, they're in the same ballpark, but they're not playing the same game.
Well, and the fact that they're like even on the same like purported team is insane. Yeah, because they are like extremely different, like politically speaking.
Well, yeah,
Right?
what I'm just making a equivalence to that,
Yeah.
to Trumpers saying that, or Donald Trump himself, not even Trump voters, Donald Trump himself saying, and that's why we're gonna get all the January 6th people out of prison. I'm like, whoa, like
Yeah.
one person had a funky gun charge, a funky gun charge and some crack. These people like literally tried to do the silliest coup ever,
Yeah.
like the silliest insurrection. Like
Well,
that's
until
completely different, my
like
dude.
yesterday, it was the silliest coup ever.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That is true. That's so silly. What did he think was going to happen? I mean, he had some people in the military. It's not like completely the military didn't back him, but like that's crazy. I mean, all our little
The number one rule of doing coups, right? The number one rule of doing coups is get the military on your side first. Like that's what
right.
you got to do.
No,
That's
that's
how
what
you
you gotta
do it.
do.
That's the rules. That's the coup rules.
But don't you find it funny that all our little like American colonies are like falling apart? Like all our mini Americas, Israel, South Korea, like their hyper capitalism is
Okay,
like
it's imperial
destroyed
decay.
them. Yeah, it's imperial decay.
I mean,
Like,
like it's nothing different than happened with the Roman Empire when it fell to pieces. It's nothing different
yeah.
from the French and the Great Britain and
Well, it
all these.
wasn't on TikTok. That's the
Well, no,
difference.
yeah, you get to see a lot of the stuff happening, and it's coming like directly into your face because it's on your phone that you never put down, or at least I
Yeah,
never put mine down.
never.
But like it's just like it's more in your face. We are sitting through, and this might take another 100 years for it to like actually come to completion. By the way, I'm not saying that like the
Yeah,
American Empire is going to fall to pieces tomorrow,
I want to
but
see it.
like this
I
is
want to see it
definitely the
so bad.
downside. This is the downswing. This is the downslope. And even if we're gonna get like some cool stuff or whatever, the aqueducts in parts of the world where we control are gonna start to decay as well.
Lord, just let me live long enough to see it. But it feels like, yeah, it feels like people who are coming, to visit theme park America. It's like there's the signs out front, the ticket window that say, "Oh, pardon our mess. Today's rides, South Korea closed, Israel closed, like
This place is a dump.
Philippines closed." Like all our little colonies,
France
France
closed.
closed. That really doesn't fit. They're not our colony, but yeah, it's the
Well,
same.
they're
It's
not
the
a
same
colony,
principle,
but like they're in our economic sphere. Like the
right?
EU and America are like joined at the hip, and
No,
and
you
and,
try. You right.
and one of our big economic allies is now in the middle of a economic crisis,
No,
or not
you
an
right.
economic crisis, a political crisis. I mean, there's inflation hitting everywhere in the world. And again, like you do see some increasing like you see fascist governments taking over in various countries, and everybody's like, I don't know what's going on. Why is all this fascism taking over? But then you also look like literally, you could not look any closer to our south, to Mexico, where a Jewish woman was elected the president of Mexico
Yes, she
this
was.
year, who was a leftist Jewish woman. And the reason was because they delivered for working class people. Nobody cares about any of
And
that
this
stuff.
wasn't like in an emergency, like, oh my god,
No.
we've got to pull the lever for commies because everything's gone wrong. Like she is the protege of AMLO.
Yeah. We're talking
So
about
it'd be like if
grandma.
Bernie was president and then Bernie's like handpicked successor, would have also
If
won. Like
Bernie,
that's what we're
that would
talking
only
about.
happen if Bernie delivers. You know what I mean? If
Yeah, and
Bernie
that's
is
how
president and doesn't
good
deliver, it
social
doesn't matter.
democracy is going down there in Mexico.
Mhm.
It's going quite
But
well.
then if you don't deliver for the working class people are just like, you know what? We can get nothing or fascism. They're taking the fascism.
No, 100%.
It
No, that's
sucks. Like
100%
I
right.
don't want that. Most people are just like, this is the thing that like makes me at least feel good about myself. I can be proud of myself and the people that are like me or whatever, and the people that look like me or
Mhm.
whatever. Like I'm not defending it for sure, but like the idea, it makes a certain sense when you like take away all other alternatives. Like
No, 100%.
you're gonna get the sweet sugar and you're gonna die and be executed tomorrow,
Mhm.
or you're gonna get the have to eat dirt. You're gonna eat the sugar.
No, yeah, I mean I can't argue with that at all. It's exactly what it is. I said that to somebody who's a liberal, who's who's fastly turning into a leftist, like day by day. But I said, look, when the average person, I said, when you offer them Halo Top or Haagen-Dazs, they're gonna take the Haagen-Dazs, even though it's not good for them. They're gonna be like, this tastes great. It's giving me the mouthfeel I want. It tastes so good. So instead of just and so why don't you, they're gonna take the real thing. So you need to have the alternative real thing. Like, and but yeah,
you actually have to deliver. You also need to give them dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to actually give them like something to chew on, and that's not the Democrats, and like a lot of liberalism is proving that it's not even able to deliver those goods anymore.
Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. And I've been, on that though. I don't know how much time we have left because I don't have a timer.
15 minutes.
Oh, there we go. So on that topic, good. I can get into this. I also wanted to say I something that's been really bothering me lately, like for real, and I think it's something we can actually change. This whole like FAFO thing, the F around and find out thing. It's like with Trump voters and how bad it's going to get for them, and reveling that they are not invited.
Oh, you mean the fascists? I mean the liberals that are like, oh, they voted for Trump in North Carolina, right, so they deserve floods or whatever.
Yeah, they're like, not even. Yeah, I think that's a little too much, is what they're saying. I heard that like the day after the election was like, I can't wait till Palestine gets nuked. That's why I hate every Palestinian. I can't wait till they all get deported.
Wow,
it's
bro.
like,
I'll tell you really
LOL, I'm with her. And it's like, what? Okay. But my point is,
something different than that.
If we want to have fun at these people's expense, and we want to be like, ooh, you don't know what a tariff is, and now you're going to find out, we have to do that in our own little circles, and like our own little, go to our own little laughing places. But what you need to understand, WHIV listener, especially WHIV listener, this is
we love you, WHIV listeners.
We do love you. But what you need to understand is,
listen up.
If it's going to be as bad as I believe it is, Jeff believes it is, as you believe it is, there's going to be millions of little leftists trying to crack their beaks through the egg, going to be emerging from the egg. You need to be there to imprint on them and be their little leftist mother and hear their concerns. Because as the old adage goes, if you're not talking to them, somebody else is. Yep. So if you shun these people, I'm not saying don't laugh at them. I'm saying laugh at them all you want, but keep it on the low. Keep it behind closed doors. Don't do it in their face.
Don't do it on MSNBC.
On MSNBC. Don't do it on TikTok. Don't put it on social media. All that foolishness. But if you do this and you make these people feel, and I know this sucks, they deserve no quarter. They deserve no empathy. But this is the brass tacks. It is. I know, but it doesn't matter. I'm trying to put myself in the head of somebody who would say that. What we're about here, Good Morning Comrade, is material benefit, actually things that matter and affect your life. So if these people don't deserve empathy, they don't deserve blah 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 blah, that's fine. They still vote anyway. And if you embarrass them to their face, you're going to drive them further into the arms of the right, and you're going to drive them further into the arms of fascists. You need to be the one to be like, yep, this sucks. This is how it happened. Now let's talk about an alternative and why this worldview of yours doesn't work.
You need to actually convince people and win them over. It's not that hard.
You don't do that by dunking. This is from somebody. All I do, bro, I've won the internet, Twitter, X, slam dunk contest.
Vince Carter over here.
I cannot be
Howard. I'm looking at.
I'm crazy with it, bro. I'm crazy. I'm wild with it. I'm coming right for your heart at all times. But I even understand that you have to pull back and you have to try to actually. I know we gas up, sit here and like he's God Almighty. But if you haven't listened to Hassan Piker, Listen to Hassan Piker on Twitch. Find him on YouTube, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Spoke at Cambridge Union today.
Exactly. Now, did you see how he spoke at Cambridge when he had dissenters who were actively there to troll him? If you watched it, he used a Cambridge tone and a Cambridge
very
cadence.
composed. I'm very
composed because he say himself, he said, I match energy. If you come at me with crazy energy, you're going to get crazy energy back. If you come at me from a place of good faith or a place of reserve or a place of you're genuinely curious, then I have all the time in the world to sit down and game this out and explain this to you. That he has one persona when he's talking to people in the street, another when he's berating people on his Twitch channel. That's how you have to be.
And that's because Twitch chat is just
it's a free it's insane. Yeah, it's a daycare for adults is what it is. But yeah, that is what it is.
100% right. No, you are 100% right. And like I mean, like again, like liberals might think that like, yeah, these people deserve no support or they deserve no empathy or whatever. You know what though? Like part of the reason they came to the conclusion that like either don't vote third party, or vote for Trump and not vote for Kamala Harris or whatever your preferred candidate was. Part of the reason for that is because, especially in 2016, the approach was so high-handed, like you vote for her or you're voting for fascism or whatever. And like it's just this like high-handed approach that essentially like you do this or you're a morally bad person or whatever it is, you're running people off, you're scaring them away, and you just have to like convince people. And again, it's not easy for Democrats to do if they don't provide anything. They don't. What was this election or whatever? If people were, if they're going to talk about this having been the most important election of our lifetime, what was the big thing that you were voting for Kamala Harris for? And the answer is nothing. The answer is more of the same. And like people are hurting right now. If you run a campaign of like continuation of the current, like what's going on right now, when people are hurting, no wonder you lose.
No, 100%. And I go back to my own personal life of just like, there's a guy at work who's a Trumper, and we got into it today. We were like, it was after work, but we were still in the office, just like yelling at each other, not like in a way of just like, I'm going to fight you, but we're matching energy. We're matching energy. But I make sure to talk to that guy about things that don't concern Trump, that are politics.
Have a relationship.
Yeah, I make sure to be like, hey, did you hear what happened here in this thing? And it's like things that I know he'll agree with. Like I know he's going to agree with, and I will talk to him about that stuff. So hopefully when we do have like arguments where we're yelling at each other, I will have
you see him as a human being.
Well, no, he can see me as somebody that's reasonable and not just wants to shit on him because he voted for Trump.
Yeah, no. Yeah, exactly. Like it's I mean, again, you don't have to agree with any of his ideas, but at least realize that this is a person that is saying this. There's a reason that they're saying this.
100%. No, that's it. Yeah, there's a reason why they think like this. Instead of, we were talking about tariffs, and he's talking about tariff this, and they're like, it's starting to be fine. I said, okay, dog. I said, here's my question for you. I said, I have one question. I said, this is going to be facetious, but I just want to get to the heart of the matter. I said, I need you to tell me what a tariff is. And then after that, I need you to tell me how it's going to make prices go down. And he tried to pivot off of that. And I said, no. I said, it's very simple.
Answer the
question. I said, it's an open book test. You can bring out your phone
right now
and ask ChatGPT right now. And he kind of had nothing to say. And he had to try to pivot onto something else. And I go, then what are we talking about? Like you're living in a cartoon world, but sometimes it just thinks that
you're drinking the Kool-Aid. You hear something that somebody said on television or whatever, and you're just repeating it. And people don't like being called out on that, though.
No, they don't. And and I try not to insult people, but if he started going off about something which was completely inaccurate, and I shut it. He's like, "Can I say anything?" And I'm like, "Not when you start out wrong. Yeah. Not in your first sentence when you're like saying that you're building a house on a bad foundation. So we got to stop right there."
I'm
So we
starting
got to
off
do
the
that.
conversation by saying down is up. Why don't we agree? Why
Yeah,
can't you
no,
listen to me?
no, we're not doing that. Like, we can't do that.
Yeah. And you can
That's
do
what
it
it
in a
is.
way that continues the conversation. It doesn't end it. But also, I mean, again, sometimes you can't establish a common basis for an argument.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are just going to deflect and do whatever. Sometimes you got to know when to pack it in, be like,
Yeah.
okay, well, whatever, and then
And a
save
big
it for the
I'm not
next time.
talking about like a nasty troll or
Yeah,
something.
no,
I'm
somebody
talking
you
about,
work with.
yeah, I'm somebody that just wants to just, go for it. Yeah, if you choose to engage with somebody who's like just being a troll, then yeah, dunk on them all day.
Sometimes people are just going to say unk stuff, and you cannot stop them.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot stop them, and sometimes they just got to get their dumb stuff out of their system. And once they got out of their system, they'll ask you, "Is like, does that make sense?" And you tell them, "Hell no, none of that made sense." But I'll listen to you, right?
Not a lick. No, 100%. No, that's it. Like you just have to be honest with people and like not coddle them, but don't push them away, but don't patronize them, and don't be afraid to tell them no, you're wrong. Like and say no, you're wrong, and this is why you are wrong.
Yeah.
And
And the important part, and again, this is as we, start to wind down, the important thing is that you listen and that they know that you're listening. And if they think that you're listening and you still disagree with them, and part of listening is like, this is like basic human, like, maybe I feel like I'm talking to daycare. Sorry, WHIV listeners and podcast listeners, but like part of listening is actually listening and hearing all of what they have to say without interrupting, without being on your phone, without doing whatever. Like there's you get a lot of credit for just listening to stuff that people have to say. I don't know, man. I think that matters.
I agree with that. I mean, again, no arguments with that.
Mm-hmm.
Can't find any. But yeah, it's a cold world out there. Things are going to get so much worse before they get any better. And protect yourself and your community, and even those who disagree with you. See where you can find common ground without giving away your principles.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Quick note. As of today, it is election day. Get out there and vote. I believe there is District 2 school board up for the runoff. You can listen to our interview with Gabriella Biro, who is running in that race. We didn't get anything back from the other candidate in there, but we had a full hour conversation with her. Definitely worth your time. And yeah, we're going to have more coming for you as we move past. We had a little bit of a logo redesign. Check that out.
Good job, Jeff.
And yeah, just stay tuned to Good Morning Comrade every Saturday at 10 a.m. More information, goodmorningcomrade.com. And by the way, happy 10-year anniversary to this station, WHIV. 10 years of social justice and human rights radio. We are very proud to have been here for 5 of those years. So, to many more, hopefully, if, we don't get just clapped by the FCC or whatever.
If the fates allow.
Yeah. Anyway, Robert, where can people follow you on Blue Ski?
Good Morning Comrade on Blue Sky. Cool. Good Morning Comrade on TikTok.
Yeah,
I'm not on X because it's just annoying, and I got my phone broke, and I got a new phone. I don't want to reinstall it. So
cool. Well, yeah, everybody, have a great day. Thank you so much for listening. We love you. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
Pull up on, 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 pull up on.